All right. So, in just a moment. All right, great. So, thank you very much all for joining me today on this very fortunate day of mental health. And I would want to start with a very important question. And I want you to take a moment and to answer this question yourself. And it's the simple question, what is more important than your mental health? What is more meaningful than just your mental health? Is it your business, or is it your job, or your relationships? And take anything it is. What is more important? If you have the answer to this question, please type in the chat. And if you don't have the answer, I have the answer, which at least I think I've discovered after years and years of hard work and years of finding this answer. So, what I understand is no matter how happy your relationship is, no matter how much money you are making, and doesn't matter where you live, the most important thing I found was that if your mind is resourceful, if your mind is healthy, I think everything else is going to take care of itself, because an aware mind has the capabilities of fascinating you with anything that you can think of in your life. So, if that is the case, I don't think you have anything to worry about. All the business ideas, all the relationships, and everything else will fall in place eventually with just one thing. So, that brings me to another question, that why do we celebrate mental health only once a year? Why don't we do it every other day, and why do we forget it once we are done with 10th of October? Something that is as critical as mental health, and we kind of celebrate it for one day, and then the next day life comes back to the same old mechanism. The life continues with whatever it was earlier. And does that make sense to you? Anything that is so important in life, that decides how your relationships are going to be, that decides how your happiness, your business, your job, anything else is going to be, and does it only deserve one day worth of your time? I think you ask yourself. Also, I intend to announce something today, which is something I have been working on for a very long time. The research, the learnings, and everything has took 7 years of my life, and I now plan to share it with people who need help. So stick with me. We're going to keep it short and crisp, but I hope it's going to be very valuable in return of your investment of time that you're doing today. So starting with let's actually start with some numbers. What Let's see what WHO says about mental health. Um, I was reading earlier, and WHO says that one of every four person at some point in their life will go through mental disorders, at least some kind of mental disorders. It could be depression, it could be anxiety, and it could be anything else, but one of four. What worries me about this fact is that even if that's not me, and even if that's me, I might have to deal with a person who is suffering from some sort of mental disorder. It could be at your workplace, it could be people in your family, and could be your friend, and it could be anyone. So, another important thing which I've been studying a lot, so I came across is that 90% of all the people who are suffering in India, at least in India, they never get care. 90% people, they never reach out to a professional psychologist, a professional psychiatrist, because there are many reasons behind this, and we'll talk about the reasons in a second. But one another thing that I found to be very shocking again was that the government of India, they spend 33 paise every year on every person who's suffering from any kind of mental disorder. 33 paise, that's not even a cent. That's what the initiatives are. And it's not just India, it's not just our country. In fact, 40% of the world, they don't even have a policy for mental health. They don't even have a legislation. They don't have a resource, a planning, or a program to help people and come out of mental disorders. 40% of the population. In fact, 40% of the countries in the world. Now, let's look at the reasons why does this happen. Why don't people uh, go out and seek help? What stops people? The very first thing, and this is much talked about, is the social stigma attached. People think going to a psychologist or seeking professional help for any kind of mental disorder is like it's a stigma. It's something people looks upon a person as if he has invented that kind of mental state he's in. They've As if they are sole responsible for that kind of mental disorder. In fact, even before the society starts to blame you, I think people themselves, they need to convince themselves. They need a lot of convincing to acknowledge that yes, they are suffering from one or another kind of mental disorder, and second, they need help. Even if it's not a clinical help, even if it's just as simple as speaking with somebody in your family, speaking with a friend or a colleague or someone who can just listen to you. It takes a lot of courage, it takes lots of time, and in fact, in most cases, people wait for such a long amount of time that the situation from mild to it transits to a clinical stage where you can't stay at home and continue your daily life. It's very very critical that we understand. In fact, I was reading a column today this morning, and the World Economic Forum says that the mental health crisis had just started after the unlocking of the lockdown, which was on 18th of May, and we are going to see a huge amount of new cases coming up, and people are already expressing it. People are using social media to express what they are going through. There are numerous reasons behind it: loss of their jobs and their businesses getting shut down. People are having difficulties in maintaining their healthy relationships, even within the family, outside the family. Lots and lots of trouble. And another shocking thing when it comes to helping people is that I'm talking about this. This figure is about India. After every 100,000 people, one after 1 lakh people, there is only 0.3, less than 1% clinical help, 0.7 nursing support, and somewhat close to it when it comes to social support. So you can look at the consequences it might have on people's lives. And when it comes to taking care of them, when it comes to supporting them, it's not just the government's responsibility. Even if what they're doing, whatever they are, and I'm really not going to talk about in great detail, but what is it that we can understand, what is it that people themselves can do to take care of their mental health? It's critical. And before you speak out, before you go to any psychologist, there is a simple fact I want to bring to your attention, and that is, someone in Australia, they did a research and they wanted to understand that what is it like to treat people with mental disorders and give them access to someone who can support them emotionally. So they did a program, and about 100 patients, they signed up for that program. And what they did was, the researchers divided these 100 people into two groups. So one group did have access to the same treatment that the other one was having. The only difference being there was that the first group had access to other people in terms of speaking, in terms of emotional support. and this lasted for about 3 months. And after the end of third month, what they discovered was quite surprising. That people who had access to someone who could speak with them, who could listen to them, and who could support them emotionally recovered 50% faster than the other group, which did not have access to anyone to speak with. And this brings me to a very important question: why have we stopped talking? What happened? As far as I know, we are the only species in the world who's been gifted to speak, to use a language, and to shape your thoughts into words. So, what happened? Why are we not using this gift, which only we have in the entire universe? It turns out that there is not one simple reason behind this, and I can keep on talking about the reasons, and probably will spend a lot of time doing that. But it comes down to some really lifestyle choices. People have started to uh, prefer privacy, self kind of isolation on a mild level, that they need a personal space. And personal space to do what? I don't understand that. People have stopped sharing in, and they're paying a cost because they are no longer doing what humans are supposed to do, which is sharing, which is just talking it out, which is just having someone to listen to. As simple as that. Now, what happened as a consequence was people silently started to transform themselves from a social, from a personal space to a social disconnection, to a self isolation stage. And what that did to people was it kind of silently transitioned these people from just being socially disconnected towards the edge of falling into depression, towards the edge of self isolation. It's critical, it's important, and still people are not doing that. And human mind, the way it works is we work on the need and fulfill kind of mechanism. So if we have a need, we feel a need to eat, we go and find the food. We feel a need to sleep, we sleep. But when there is such a strong need to take care of your mental health, your emotional state, I don't know why we don't feel the need. And even if people who feel the need and people who go out and seek help, I've already shared what kind of help is available. And we can keep talking about the problems and people who've been there, or people who've experienced this, and people who've spoken to other people who've experienced mental disorders of some kind. They would understand and they would connect with what I'm saying. And in fact, for years I've tried to look for people. I've tried to find these people who could just listen to me, who could support me. And I was fortunate to have a good supportive family. I still am. But sometimes in life we need someone who's a neutral person, who's someone who can just listen and not judge, who could just be there and mindfully do not does not criticize and give us full attention. It becomes challenging. It's difficult to find such a person, even if you're going through some kind of mild uh, difficult situation in your life. Could be unhealthy relationship, it could be a loss of a job, it could be a disease, a physical disease you're going through, and anything that may be. The first and the foremost thing we should be doing is just to exerting, it's just to speaking with people. That's it. Now, I've talked about the consequences, I've talked about the reasons, and the most people who suffer is people who are from the lower income category, people who are poor. And there are many reasons. Of course, the first reason is social stigma attached, but there are other reasons as well. For example, they live a very unhealthy life. For example, they live on the edge, in unhygienic and dangerous situations, and that pushes them towards some sort of mental disorder. Their exploitation is also one of the reasons. Awareness is a great reason behind this. And people from all categories, people from all walks of life, I do not think that it makes a difference if you are a billionaire or if you are just a common man or if you are from upper class society, we all have our own versions of difficulties. We all have our own versions of mental situations and events that happen in our life. uh, let's talk about professionals, working professional. They have their own version of stress. They have their own difficulties to deal with. The targets are going high, the competition is going up, the job cuts, the recession, the pressure from the peers and the bosses and the clients, and all the travel it takes, and all that shuffling that you have to do between being available to your family and working from home. And there are millions of reasons to do that, to even discuss that. But lots of companies in today's situation, even during the pandemic and even before the pandemic, these companies were investing a lot of money towards the people's well-being, towards their mental health, their physical health, and it's great to have these companies. But I'm talking about the most here. I'm talking about companies who do not even have a policy for mental health. Companies who don't even think that working beyond 6, 7, or 8 hours, or working non-stop on the weekends, it does have a toll on your mind. There is a cost that the company is not going to pay. That cost is going to be borne by you, by working overtime, by not disconnecting from the online and offline mode, kind of merging it all together. And your managers, your leaders, they think that it's easy to stay at home and continue working, but it's not. You know it. Now, all those things, WHO says that again, the economic and the cost that we're going to pay in terms of health, in terms of the well-being, is huge, especially economically. If we speak about, India is going to have about 1.3 trillion dollars of loss, but just between 2003 and 20, and that's a huge amount. And who's responsible for it? I think we can talk about the responsibility part later, maybe some other time. But what's more important today to discuss is that we are responsible. We ourselves are responsible to take care of it, and there's nobody else. Even if there are people, even if organizations are doing great work, but it starts with you. If you don't reach out to them, they will never know. So even before someone else comes in your life and takes care of your mental health and support you in some way, it starts with you. And it always has to be you who have to lead, and always be focused on your own mental health and your own well-being. Now, I talked about sharing emotions. I talked about finding someone who can listen to you. But is that easy? That's an important question, because I've experienced it. I've been trying to help people on different social media platform, answer their queries on platforms like Quora. And one of the major question, one of the frequent question that people keep on asking me is that, um, where do they find someone that they can speak with? I don't know anyone. Parents, sometimes they understand, but sometimes the gap between your ages plays a big and important role in having a smooth conversation. Friends, they are there, and there are people. I'm not saying no one has access to such people, but mostly people fail to find one person who is going to be there mindfully and does not become judgmental, pays full attention, and be there whenever they need this person. It's quite difficult, and I'm speaking for all these people. It comes from experience. I've not read a book or read some blog and started to talk about people's mental exertion. I am somebody who's experienced it. I come from the other side where people were suffering. I was on the edge of that, and I know how it feels like to feel alone in the world, to not heard, and to feel that you are being ignored in the world. And the feelings are endless. The feelings are quite suppressive. They'll push you to the corner and you feel like there is no exit. And it's important that these people need help. So I decided and I thought, what if we could have someone who could just listen to you, who could just be there for you, and who could just spend time and listening to you, because that itself can prevent your visit to a professional psychologist or professional psychiatrist, because it does not start from 0 to 100. It doesn't work like that. There are stages in your mental condition. You start from feeling lonely, and you start from short-term depressions and short-term sadnesses, followed by some sort of event, and then it turns into clinical depression or even severe stages where just talking does not help, where you need to speak with other people, but you need actually some sort of treatment. So that inspired me to create a platform for all these people who um, who could just come and get emotional support, who could just feel that they also matter in the world. And so I created this platform, Trans Foundation. This foundation is built on one sole purpose, that anyone who needs help, anyone who needs emotional support, does have access to one person at least who could just listen to them, who could support them, and who could tell them that actually things are going to be fine eventually. You will be again going out in the world and doing great things, and live a normal life. So I invite you and welcome you all to come and get support from the platform if you need so. The website is www.trans.foundation. I'll leave the phone number as well. I'll leave the social media details as well. And for those who want to help, first of all, I thank you all for showing your interest and joining me today. And if you are someone who want to help other people, we actually need people like you. If you find that helping others is something that gives you a sense of pride and gives you a sense of self-fulfillment, um, we need you. So reach out to us. We have a volunteer section on the website. Express your interest with us and reach out. So with that, I think it's time that I ask you the very important question you should ask yourself anyway. And if you've already asked it, I'm sure you have the answer for it. The question that I want you all to think about and to leave you with is that, are you taking care of yourself? Not just for one day, not just on mental health day, but when you wake up in the morning and when you leave for your work or whatever you do in your life, do you think about yourself first and you think about your well-being first before you think about the meetings and deadlines and plans? And most importantly, do you think about other people? Are you providing any care for other people? If you just think about this and find a reason to help other people, I think it'll matter a lot. It'll fill you with the sense of pride. It'll fill your life with the sense of meaningfulness, because if you've lived a life that surrounds you only, what's the point? What's the purpose of life if you're not there for other people? Reach out to me if you need any support, if you have feedback, if you have suggestions, and if you think I've given or added some kind of value in your life. Tell me what can I do better in terms of helping other people. If you want to join the mission, please, you're welcome. And I hope you, not only today, but if you think about your own well-being, this mental health day continues throughout the year, in every hour of your day, every minute of your day. Thank you again for joining in, and I'll leave the contact details below. And I hope you take care of yourself. Thank you.